Welcome to Money on Tap. Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do on this show. We look at all sides of the issues, and we bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table.
It's Money on Tap's insightful Summer Sector Series, diving into the hottest investing sectors for the season. Each week exploring a different high-growth industry, analyzing major players, market trends, and emerging opportunities with expert guidance to make smart investments all summer long. This week, powering up your portfolio, the new growth potential of the utilities sector. Your summer school session starts now.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. My name is Seth Cressman here with Ben Brayshaw and Dan Mickelin. And it's a pleasure to bring you Money on Tap today in a way that you probably haven't heard it yet in our Summer Sector Series. Dan would like to say that 5 times fast for you today. And as we get rolling on this show, please take a moment just to subscribe to the podcast. And when you do that, practice some generosity, because we know that's who you are, as carrying Money on Tappers out there. As you share Money on Tap with others, you bring them an opportunity to increase their wealth and their financial acumen and raise the conversation in the room. We appreciate, I love that you do that for the people that you care about. And with that, yes, please make sure that you reach out to us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. Let us know, because when you do that, we're going to send you some Money on Tap gear. That's the important stuff outside of the information we have inside of the show for you today. Dan, Ben, how are you guys doing?
I'm doing really well. Seth, how are you doing, Dan?
Doing great. Doing great. Loving the weather. A little bit of a serious heat spell that we're in, but, it's that time of year.
Psyched about the Celtics.
Yes.
Celtics win.
I was going to say, you didn't drop that right out of the gate, Celtics. Congratulations, you guys. I know you guys regionally love them like I love my Seahawks over here and my Blazers, but good for you.
Yeah, those are some good college teams. I like those too.
Hey, we're getting better every year. We're almost there.
Wow. Shots fired.
Almost there.
Oh gosh, I love New England sports. Can't get enough of it. So, Seth, I'm really enjoying the conversations we've been having offline as much as on the air regarding our Summer Sector Series. I know we're jumping into utilities today. I think there's going to be a lot of value inside this. We did our technology sector last week. If you haven't heard that one, go back. We actually had some industry professionals come in and just be wowed by the actual material. They were like, I learned so much, and it's you guys are like on cutting edge conversations about some of the technology space. And I'm really excited about today, because I think utilities, we're going to really break through some perspectives on that haven't been considered or even evaluated, because utilities have always been that stable investment play, that the thing that everyone goes to when the market's looking fearful, and that's a droplet of the conversation we're going to have today about utilities. So stay tuned, because this is going to be an eye-opening show for those who engage in this and really start to understand what utilities mean for our future.
I'd like to highlight right now, Dan normally has a lot more to say, but he's so excited about the rest of this show that he cannot wait to get into. Yep, it's Money in the News. Well, Alexandra Canal, senior reporter from Yahoo Finance, tells us this: Disney's Inside Out 2 delivers box office windfall in much-needed win for Pixar, a.k.a. Disney, DIS ticker symbol. Yes, the Inside Out 2 secured an estimated $155 million in its domestic box office debut, far surpassing expectations as the company attempts to revamp box office strategy after multiple theatrical misses. if you haven't been following ticker DIS for a while, wow, what an epic fail on Disney's part for delivering trash over and over again, expecting us as consumers to stand behind the woke agenda, and also garbage, absolute total garbage on your screen. Thank you for not supporting trash in our media or trash for our children. You know what? I wish there was more that I had to say other than I was at Disney World this last year and Disney this last year. Love it, and was so sad when I was just walking around going, what has happened? My precious Disney, where have you gone? And I could not be happier, actually, to see Inside Out 2 doing as well as it has. Hopefully when I watch it, I don't want to vomit. And with that, you guys.
Wow, Seth.
Well, actually,
a little bit of a firm stance there, huh?
Yeah, good for you, Seth. I
officially returned your Mickey ears or something? I mean, what is going on here?
Did you stop by and drop them off?
Half of it.
Did you return the Mickey ears? Disney has just been hammered this last few years. I mean, their woke engagement has just been disappointing to the point where, they've changed leadership. They've done all sorts of things, brought Bob back. They just realized that, what a big, huge fail this is to push all of this woke agenda into their material. Nobody out there that I have ever talked to said, my children need to be taught this wokeness through your child material. This is not adult. This is for kids. Stay out of parenting, Disney. That's what their stock has been told through the investors. That's what the movie returns have done. It's funny because when you look at the historical movies, and this article brings this up about how much of a bomb these things have done. It's been atrocious. They spent $200 million on Strange World with Dennis Quaid. And I think it only, what did it bring in? Was it 20 million or 50 million? It was just horrible. It was a huge, huge miss. But people don't, my wife and I said, we're not going to Disney stuff with our kids. It doesn't matter,
the one of the points of the article is they're still struggling with, how do they roll out these releases? Is it going to be streaming? Is it going to be in the theaters? Is it going to be some combination? And they seem to be lagging in that, versus all the other streaming platforms. I mean, everybody's basically got it figured out, but they continue to struggle. And quite honestly, Disney, whenever I sit down with my wife and the family, we kind of review the subscription services and see, which ones we need, which ones we don't. That one is always on the chopping block. But I get in an alternating fashion between my three boys. One of them's always hooked on Star Wars. I cannot get rid of Star Wars. And that's the only reason that thing is still hanging in there is the Star Wars content.
I was talking to one of my kids, and they were like, we don't have a Disney subscription. And he was like, no, I have one. I'm like, you're paying for this out of pocket? I was like, oh, okay. I guess we have Disney.
Can I borrow your password?
Hey, son, can I borrow your password?
Can you log me in?
Yeah. But seriously, it's for me, it's just not on the list, Yeah,
speaking of that, that's one of the most annoying things in my life that just came to mind. Totally off article here, but I have a list on my refrigerator of every service with every password and every login. And I just have everyone in my family, including my wife, just brings me their devices and says, can you log me in? I'm like, the list is on the fridge, everybody.
Dan,
please.
Can you have me over for dinner? Dan, can you have us over?
Couldn't make it any easier for them. It's
everyone bring me your phones. I'll get your Wi-Fi going. Let's go. I'm like, internal IT. It's like the password's right there. I mean, come on, please.
Well,
yeah. Now that I know, I will bring you my computer ails this next time something pops up on my email fails and see what you can do there.
Well, I'm sure if it was something that you did wrong, Dan, your wife could find it in 3 seconds.
Oh yeah, we all know where to find that list.
She can't remember how to log into the internet, but she can remember everything you've done wrong for the last 15 years.
It's in alphabetical order.
She can rank
Dan,
them too.
if you're done with us throwing you under the bus, or what was the one that I heard, selling you out the back of the bus? It was a combo of selling you down the river and the bus. Does that work for you? I'm not gonna sell you out the back of the bus. So if you want,
No,
to,
that's
go
when
ahead,
Disney.
right?
No, that's when Disney sent their cruise ships to Epstein Island.
Roger, get rid of that take, please. We gotta go. Dan, would you please lead us down a new path here with some Mickey D's?
Yeah, this is coming to us from CNN from Erica Tulfo. McDonald's pulls AI ordering from drive-thrus for now. And this was interesting, in that it's the only thing I've read about AI actually failing at in forever. It seems like there's like constantly good news, and you'd think there'd be, of all the things that AI can do, you would think getting the order at a drive-thru window would be pretty darn simple.
I read this too, and I was thinking to myself, like, this should be the ABCs of like what we want to use AI for. Like, oh, you want ketchup with your fries? I mean, come on, how could this fail?
I mean, any kid in junior high has this job, but super, complex AI can't get it down.
Oh yeah,
like it just doesn't. It's weird that of all the things, of all the applications, this is the one that's struggling.
I mean, realize that you only have to not be high when you show up for your job at McDonald's to actually perform it. So I'm just shocked that I was really blown away, Dan, that AI and that this has been a common problem, and that this is like. They're pulling it. They're pulling it from a lot of these.
IBM's been working on this since 2021. I should get you worried about IBM too.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what is going on here?
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd be curious to see the data behind the decision making. Like, are they losing clients or customers, or is there translations that aren't happening, or somehow the economics of it must be failing. Part of me is a little relieved, I've got to say. I'm like, oh, thank God, AI may not be at my order window for a while, but I'm really curious what it is, why.
The biggest complaint was obviously that the AI orders were wrong. They were getting them wrong.
But they do that all the time anyways.
Oh,
I've never gotten an order right at McDonald's.
Every time I go to Chick-fil-A, it is always wrong. I don't care what it is. There's always something. It's like they repeat everything to you. It's exact. You get the bag. You have to check. It's like it doesn't matter. So the AI thing is not shocking to me. The question is did AI get the order wrong, or did the 14-year-old
probably not
spit in your burger? So.
There's a lot of potential breakdowns in that communication chain there.
Pretty much, we have no intelligence operating through either of these chains, right? But I know. But in all seriousness, I was really shocked in reading this because this concerns me. If AI is probably in the most simple ordering task, is breaking down throughout the entire process. How do we rectify this to be something? I mean, because we've talked about AI as an investable opportunity across the board. Wouldn't this make, theoretically, McDonald's tremendously profitable if they got rid of, hundreds of thousands of people at drive-thru, paying that? I mean, that's a major profit center.
I mean, it's already solving far more complicated issues than this. I mean, this is like the simplest of the simple.
Well, this means high schoolers will still be employed.
That's probably a benefit from this thing.
As we wrap up Money in the News, I do have to say I left out a part that I need to get back in there with that Disney Inside Out. That movie, the number one, was one of the best movies that really did a phenomenal job of educating us as a whole around so many different areas inside of being connected as a human being. I will not go to the movie theater, and I don't know how many people are going to the theaters these days. I just rarely do, but I will especially not for this movie because I will reserve my ugly cry face for home and those that care to join me in that. You can probably do that in the next month. So I'll save that one for then because there's no way around it. I am going to just turn into a complete and absolute total puddle and a mess when I watch that movie. With that, I'm sure that's what you came here to hear today and to learn about today is Seth and his ugly cry face. But with that, no, we are going to jump back into some more Power Up Your Portfolio, the new growth potential of the utility sector. You're joining us today. You're joining us in part 2 of our summer sector series. We're going to be breaking down sectors of the S&P 500 and investing for you. And it's a wonderful opportunity for you to become more educated in what investing in sectors looks like, what the market is composed of, and how you can have a healthy conversation and engage in a healthy way around investing yourself. I say, healthy because that's what we're hoping for at the outcome here. And so for what it's worth, that's our goal. We hope we can land the plane there with you today. And with that, we're going to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere because when we get back, we'll be in with Power Up Your Portfolio, the new growth potential of the utility sector. We'll be right back. You're listening to Money on Tap.
Hey everyone, Dan Mickelon here with Brayshaw Financial. Looking for a hassle-free way to invest? Look no further than Brayshaw Financial Group. With Brayshaw Financial Group, you can start investing with as little as $100, enjoy a user-friendly platform with a diverse range of investment options. Visit Brayshaw Financial Group and start your investment journey today. Brayshaw Financial Group, investing made easy.
Thank you for joining us for Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more of this week's show with Ben, Seth, and Dan.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Thank you for subscribing during that break and also sending us a message at info@yourmoneyontap.com so that we can send you some Money on Tap gear. We appreciate you so much for being here with us and taking time out of your day to invest in yourself. And we talk about being successful in your investing. Right now, you are doing that as you take action in becoming deeper in your understanding around investing. We're talking about the Summer Sector Series, and Utilities this week highlights is our big header inside of investing in sectors. And with that, let's go. Let's learn more about this incredible sector of the S&P 500 and our investing.
Yeah, the utility sector has been traditionally, kind of one of the, probably more boring, sectors to talk about.
I said incredible, Dan.
Wonk,
incredible.
wonk.
Yeah, it's getting there. This is the new twist on it, right? We're going to talk about the reasons why it's not what it used to be. But we got to set the table here. We got to get into it a little bit. And
all right.
So the utility sector.
I think I just heard like 25,000 people turn off the radio.
Yeah, bring out the pillow. Snooze alert.
No, this isn't going to be a pillow show. It's going to be another one of those pad and paper shows.
Yeah.
So we're going to give you some information that I think hopefully is going to result in some returns for people who are interested in this particular sector or just want to really fine tune their sector investing in general. And I think there's a lot of good information here today about that. But utility sector is comprised of companies that produce electric, gas, or water power, and they distribute that power, and there's sewage treatment in there, and all kinds of things that we, as a society kind of depend upon, right? It's lots of where our tax dollars are going, and, just the things that are provided to us, on a fee-for-service basis that we need. I mean, every time we plug something in, we're enhancing our relationship with local utilities, and that just makes it one of those kind of bedrock things in our lives. Some of the stuff, and is particularly as we work through sectors and get into, consumer discretionary and consumer staples and those kind of things. Utilities is something that it's hard to leave behind. We're forever tied to it, and they've been traditionally really kind of for investors a source of income. They often spin off some kind of a dividend, issue a lot of bonds for their projects, and raise money through those kinds of means to expand their grid, expand their reach. And, as such, they have long been companies that people turn to produce income and make an otherwise fairly stable investment. Would probably be the mindset around that. And, things are changing. Things are different. The utility sector has actually been one of the top 3 best performers so far this year. And like everything else, There seems to be some kind of a relationship going back to AI with that. And we're going to get into a little bit more detail with that as the conversation expands. But, in following up on kind of last week's show about the technology sector and how in reality there's at least 6 subsectors that we were able to identify as investable in their own right. So take a little sliver of that overall sector, and there is a financial product out there that exists that allows you to make a play on that, but at the same time not be reliant on specifically picking the stocks, the individual companies that will be the best performers. And these are ETFs, and Seth pointed out last week, mutual funds as well. And the utility sector has those as well. XLU is a well-known one that's from State Street. That's the Utilities Select Spider SPDR fund, Vanguard Utilities ETF, which is VPU, IDU, which is iShares Utilities ETF. So these ETFs are going to comprise that whole field. And looking for kind of a little bit of a better breakdown, the things that are included in that sector would be things like hydroelectric power, fossil fuel electric power generation, nuclear, which we're going to get into, electric bulk power transmission and control, electric power distribution, natural gas, water supply, sewage treatment, and steam and air conditioning supply. So these are all different means to produce energy and things that are considered to be utility companies. However, unlike the tech world, you can't really get that fine-tuned investment in all of those different kind of subsectors. But there are some big ones, such as electric power, nuclear, and water that we'll talk about a little bit that are investable subsectors within the whole utility space.
I think utilities is probably the most timely thing to be talking about in today's world. And usually the conversation, Dan, as you had kind of mentioned, is utilities. An investment in utilities usually speaks poorly about the health of our economy. And that's what has always been the staple conversation about investing in utilities. The thing that is changing right now and the growth potential inside utilities is something that's pretty much uncalculable because of the level of which our energy demand is just increasing at a growth rate that's just astronomical. And it's not just straight up AI. It's EV. It's these electric vehicles. There's a lot of different pieces going on, and I think a lot of people are really looking for that knockout stock play. That kind of new AI story or that new next Tesla conversation. And honestly, we have probably as many phone calls or conversations about that as I do, conversations of when do you think the stock market's going to crash? I think that's one of the things that's really, really interesting. And I think when you actually really break down the stock market, its historical performance and the things that have happened over the years, some of the bull runs we've had, we're only like 145 days into a, North 20 bull run, which is actually not that much. We'll sometimes go into, 500, 600, 700 days of a bull run that will, long surpass what we're even seeing here. And I'm talking about the late 90s, just some of the various bubbles that we've seen. And do they burst? Do they not? But we are very much in the early stages of that conversation from a bull run conversation. Hey, listen, the market's running. It seems like it's overbought. And it totally could be overbought. We don't know something's overbought until we have a massive correction. And then at that point in time, you look at what did we correct to? And if you bought above that, well, then you overbought. So we don't really have a price target on overbuying, but we do know that a bull run can run, 5, 6, 7 times this time period in history with no issues for quite some time. So that leaves us a lot to question. But if you really think that we're overbought, some of the potential of the conversation I'd like to have with you guys today that I'm excited about talking about is how much does an overplayed stable value bad economy play like utilities actually play into a good backbone and growth play all at once, possibly in someone's portfolio today. This could really be a major hedge against, if you think the market's going to grow with AI and EV, Well, great. Buy the items that's going to power all of that. Or if you think the market's going to crash, well, great. Look to the utility sectors. If you think rates are going to go down, look at the utility sector. I mean, these are really interesting conversations because it's kind of like whether they throw you a slider, a curveball, or a fastball, it seems like utilities is involved in it. And I think there's some real potential for this may be a real staple play in today's world. Now, I'm not recommending anyone go out and run out and buy utilities because, something like XLU is down quite a bit in the last, 2 weeks. So, does that mean that's a buying opportunity or people are taking profits for a long period to come? To be seen, but there is so much energy used in AI alone. It's scary. I'm going to steal some of Dan's data because I just think it's the right time and place, and I love taking credit for some of the work Dan does. No, just kidding. But this is an article that was found in Yahoo Finance, and it says the International Energy Agency, the IEA, forecasts that data centers alone, the total electricity consumption could reach more than 1,000 terawatt hours by 2026. To give you an idea what that means, that's roughly the equivalent electricity consumption of the country of Japan. I mean,
how much was that?
1,000 terawatt hours by 2026. This is just data centers in the United States alone. Just data centers. Just data centers. On top of that, the Energy Information says that data centers are one of the most energy-intensive building types, consuming 10 to 50 times the energy per floor space of a typical commercial office building. Break this down even further. A simple chat GPT task uses a simple chat GPT or a simple AI search uses 10 times the energy of you searching something in Google. 10 times. I don't think we have a understanding. I mean, because AI is in the infant stages. We just talked about money in the news. I mean, McDonald's can't even get AI to figure out whether someone wants fries, ketchup, or pickle on their bun. I mean, there's clearly a problem. But
I thought we established that could possibly not be AI's fault at the back end of that, but that's fine. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I know.
That's Andy and Isaac in the back room trying to figure it out. That's the AI working on that one.
With that being said, though, I mean, if you think about how small we use the capacity of what AI is potentially sought to accomplish in our future, we have no idea where the utility sector could possibly go. And I leave you with that.
Gosh, we are talking about a powerhouse, utilities. And I guess there was no pun intended there, but go for it. And historically, what has this been? It has been a story of Consolidated Edison, or Con Ed, right? That was a 1823 monopoly. PG&E, or Pacific Gas and Electric, monopoly. American Waterworks Company, monopoly, right? So we've had monopolistic structures, and clearly those have been places where investment dollars have sought out to control or corner markets. Why? Because it's critical infrastructure. So critical. And, the fluidity that's interesting, and really where we're going with this conversation today, is some of the fluidity of how some of these lines are continuing to expand and cross over. Data centers, right? Is data center what, information technology? Is it tech, or is it utility? What is that today? We'd have to take a look at the company that we're discussing and try to understand that more. And it is a fascinating, as typically a defensive story inside of the economy, as the economy's ebbed and flowed, as it's come back. Where do people go towards safety? This has been one of the places where money has domiciled inside of safety. And today, because of lots of different stories, but for one, such a critical component of growth at this time is hinging around technology, and technology requiring far greater need in energy and and utilities than it ever has before. So we have an industry that may no longer be defensive, but growth. And growth that may no longer be like technology, i.e. technology, that may no longer be growth, but also defensive. Wow, what fascinating moment in time that we can be a part of this story, you guys. I'm getting goosebumps. Everybody else out there ready for this? All right. we're gonna take a quick break. You're listening to Money on Tap. And when we get back, more in Power Up Your Portfolio. The new growth potential of the utility sector is what we're talking about today. You're listening to Money on Tap. Thank you for subscribing. And make sure that you share that with one of your friends today, because we all want to join in this journey of being successful in our investing. Listen to Money on Tap. We'll be right back. Hey guys, Seth Cressman with Brayshaw Financial Group. Are you ready to take control of your financial future? Look no further than Brayshaw Financial Group. Our team of experienced advisors is dedicated to helping beginners like you build wealth through smart investing strategies. Visit BrayshawFinancial.com today and start your journey towards financial independence. Brayshaw Financial Group, your partner in wealth creation.
We appreciate you listening to Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan. You can contact us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more of this week's program.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We're talking about powering up your portfolio, the new growth potential of the utilities sector. Thanks for grabbing your pen and paper. If you didn't already, you want to make sure you have that for this, really the series over the summer. It's going to be a lot of tickers, right, which are those symbols that we can bring up or type in, and those will usually bring us to an ETF, mutual fund, or an actual company that you're looking at and doing research on. Of course you're doing that before you invest, as you're here with us and kind of going through some of the concepts and some of the important pieces behind these sectors. We are in utilities, which is traditionally, yes, not growth, but a defensive part of the economy, because it's so critical that when the economy pulls back, guess what has traditionally done better? It has been a bit of a hedge. It has been a utilities sector, because we require these areas. A lot of the time, the companies that are inside the utility sector are paying dividends, which is also one of those places where people have the tendency to invest during the defensive cycles in our economy. And one of the most interesting pieces to us today is how this has now recently been more of a growth story because of the supply-demand piece on this. Now, the ETF, if you were to take a look at it, XLU, which is one of the tickers that you can invest inside of the utility sector, has had a great year, right? Great year for utilities, which right now is at around 4.5%. That's not bad. But as of the last 6 months, it's done really well and been on an uptick there of roughly 9%. Now, recently kind of pulled back on some highs. And so those are maybe an opportunity for an investment, but also maybe we're at a bit of a peak in terms of when you might want to invest. Now, if you were to take a look at some of the we have four sectors that right now are showing the most momentum, which is financial, technology, utilities, talking about that now, and industrial. Those are 4 sectors inside of the 11 sectors of the S&P that have done really well recently and showing momentum. But we're also talking about here not just an investment today, but also a future that we want to take a look at. So as we take a look at this sector, interesting pieces and things that we want to consider for the future.
Yeah, I think the onset of looking at utilities as a growth opportunity is certainly new and a different take. But before everyone goes jumping into that, I think, that some of the best upside, some of the best potential in utilities may be a little ways off. There are some things that need to come into line that will really help, optimize that as an industry, particularly from the investable perspective. One of the key issues is the grid problems we have. I mean, the grid infrastructure in this country is decrepit at best in a lot of places and requires massive investment to really get it back into the kind of shape that we will need it to power all of these kind of future innovations. I mean, we're getting better at producing the energy and looking at new means and particularly nuclear solutions to do that, but we still got to get it from A to B in order for any of this to work. And as the infrastructure around that continues to age and erode, the demand is going up. The expectations are we're going to have 20% year-over-year growth on our energy demand, between now and 2030. And, these AI data centers that Ben was speaking to before, by that same point in time, they expect those data centers alone to account for 7.5% of the total output in this country, which is going to really, really tax this system. There's different places in the country. I mean, a lot of this is a geographically sensitive issue in terms of what the state of the infrastructure is. But, right in California, in the heart of Silicon Valley, which is where all this innovation is going, but perhaps our grids are in some of the worst shape in the country. Just charging one car in some points there would be the same thing as bringing 3 entire houses online. The amount of energy that gets immediately consumed when you plug in your charger is the same volume of energy it would take to run 3 non-EV households all day long. So when you have these kind of sudden increases and jolts to the system to drive energy in a certain direction for a certain need, the state of our infrastructure, the state of the grid system here in the country just isn't ready for some of these major changes that AI and the growth potential is going to require.
Yeah, I mean, California is a perfect example of a lot of things that are wrong in this country. But that being said, they have a real example of how bad their electrical or electricity regs have, driven their electrical grids to real failure. They haven't really been servicing their grids or upgrading or dealing with the infrastructure demands that have been stated, but they want to be 100% emissions free by 2045. But that doesn't change the fact that we still need electricity, and solar is by no means going to solve that problem in its entirety. No matter how much sun you have, we haven't built that infrastructure, which requires oil and gas to build. We have batteries we need to build. That takes oil and gas to build. There's a lot of misunderstandings around this stuff, and I think people don't understand that. Dan, to your point, California is the one that has, more electric cars than I think any state, and multiple states combined. Even, the demand for electricity is just skyrocketing, and we're not even touching AI at the level that we talked about earlier in this show. We have problems not just with California because the demand of the amount of electricity we need to run through these lines, if everybody had an electric vehicle, is way more than any grid system we've set up yet to date anywhere. And that's the big problem. So we have a major infrastructure play that needs to be done inside the electrical world and the electricity providers and so forth. And so, there's not there's not really a pure ETF that would really get you. There's some that might get you a little bit more focused, with companies that do infrastructure, but they all pretty much do some infrastructure, So that's complicated. But I do think there's going to be players in this space because the demand is going to be so high. I mean, it just is. The other thing that I think is really interesting is that as we are trying to deal with this whole grid problem, like how there's the whole facet of like, how are we gonna create all this electricity? Because solar is such an underperforming, provider of electricity. I mean, the technology. I heard someone 5 years ago say we're 5 years off. Like, we're still 5 years off. We're still 5 years off probably because the demand for solar is almost endless. Like, at what point in time do you have enough solar? Because there's only, up north here, right? There's only maybe in the winter months a few hours a day that you're actually getting real solar. Like, nobody can truly power their home off solar. And you definitely can't, because you literally need batteries just to create that. So, I mean, it's just to store that energy. And I've talked to people about hydro. I've done research on hydro myself and just kind of trying to figure that stuff out just for fun and like the house, because I was told that, trickle charging your battery off of, water would be a really great opportunity to keep your battery life longer. I mean, I've dabbled in this stuff a little bit, but we just don't I think about some of the biggest hydro providers like Brookfield Energy and stuff like that. They own most of the Northeast, I think, in hydro, and it's just not even a drop in the bucket to the amount of electricity we need just in New England. So I think the clean energy conversation is just not enough. I mean, I don't think that we're so far off from maximizing or building the technology to amplify the output of those kind of resources that, that's just not solely the only answer.
You've mentioned several times, Ben, a dilemma. Infrastructure. So when I hear you say that, maybe the challenge becomes kind of part of the option. Like, where does the need go towards? Where does that direct us? Maybe it's infrastructure that we're taking a look at as far as a next layer in deepening our understanding of where utilities can go. And let's just say, for instance, well, last show we were talking about a lot of overlap. For one, because technology has so much of that people, identify. Usually the first layer of investing is the S&P 500. Okay. Well, inside of that, or the technology sector of the S&P 500, which people would have said, well, maybe that's the Qs. Well, we kind of pulled those apart, right? And we're identified not all of the Qs as technology. Where I'm going with this is this. Okay. So overlap. If you're thinking, well, I want to go ahead and participate in this is utilities. And if you take a look at the utilities, what makes up one of the top ETFs inside of utilities, Nextra Energy, is actually roughly 14%. Then there's Southern Co. at 8%, Duke at 7%, Constellation Energy 6%. The list goes on, but that's a significant piece in one of the major players in the ETF world in utilities. And if I were to go take a look at infrastructure and take a look at one of the ETFs there and see, well, what's that breakdown look like? This is really surprising, you guys. Guess who's number one in infrastructure? Nextra Energy. Did you know? Right? So you might be kind of double, triple dipping out there as you kind of go through this process of investing. What I think is important is that you have some process here, that you're taking a look behind the veil and trying to understand a little bit more, deepen your understanding around what's going in these. Because yes, I think that infrastructure is something that's critical. It's a component that's going to have to be a part of this story for us moving forward if we are going to, in fact, support all of the EV, all of the data, all of the things that are going to be required for the future. How you do that, that's going to be a fun part of this next piece that we figure out. You guys are listening to Money on Tap, and we're talking about Power Up Your Portfolio, the new growth potential of the utility sector. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for personalized guidance to kickstart your investing journey? Look no further. Brayshaw Financial Group and our planners are here to help. Our team of experts will provide personalized advice tailored to your financial goals. Visit BrayshawFinancial.com today to schedule your free consultation. Brayshaw Financial, investing made easy.
You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We're talking about powering up your portfolio, the new growth potential of the utility sector as we break down the 11 sectors of the S&P 500, focusing right now on utilities. And it has been a really exciting show for us to get into with you guys. For one, we used to kind of pull out the pillow, have a little bit of a snooze alert when we're talking about utilities historically. Not super interesting for a lot of people, but they're a foundational element inside of the investable sectors as a whole. Now, one of the things that's an interesting story, if you were to take a look at for this sector, is last year, 2023, it measured up to, out of the 11 sectors of the S&P 500, it measured up to number 11. It was bringing in the rear of the sectors. And this last year, it is one of the top 4 or 3 performing sectors in 2024. So much of that tied in with the data story, the AI story, growth in the economy really requiring the infrastructure and also this energy or utility sector to become so critical. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of the breakdown, what has historically been a major leader inside of this sector of our economy or investable sector, but also what's starting to possibly be more of that story 20 years out. Let's get ahead of that curve. And I'll give you an example. What's been interesting for us is the dynamic or the big picture of our retirement, our baby boomers in retirement, and what are their needs? The dividend, large cap dividend, so critical for the retirement that is coming through our population. And we were having these conversations 10, 15 years ago, right? And so those were things that took quite a while to start to take form and move their way through. But here we are. Those have been some of the biggest stories in the last 5 years inside of investing. And we feel, I think, very similarly here. This is not something that we're saying go out and buy today, but we're very aware of as we move through different ways that the supply and demand are pushing through in our economy.
I think, the AI portion of the story, it kind of cuts both ways too. So AI is a problem for utilities because we just can't produce and deliver the right kind of power that it's going to require in the years to come. But AI might well be the solution too. They're working on programs, AI driven, of course, to, help upkeep the maintenance, help, divert and redirect the flow of energy in a more efficient and as needed basis. They're really relying upon AI to solve some of the things that just really a lack of attention, lack of funding, and really lack of urgency around. And that's left us in the position where if we're going to rely upon this power in the future, we need to get a really serious program in place to just prepare that infrastructure to get us in the right place to deliver upon the need for energy where it's needed, at the right time. And that, I think, is when this whole opportunity in utility space is really going to take off. And I think, the investment in AI, the investment in EV, and the investment in utilities has so many overlapping and codependencies amongst all three that it makes a lot of sense to consider making it a play across the board and getting invested in all those things. With the mindset, though, understanding, of course, that this isn't going to be a quick return scenario. This is the kind of thing where that's a bit of a long-term play to see these industries come together and lead us into the future. But clearly our future is going to be dependent upon all three.
Someone's going to listen to this show 15 or 20 years from now and be like, these guys were dead on, because that's how long we're talking. We're not talking a couple years. We're seeing some market movement. But there's the big solve, right? what solves the problem? If we talked about solar not being the answer, wind not being the answer, hydro's not the answer, and all these play into it. And I'm not saying that we're going to take advantage of that energy, but there's some statistics out there, minus the COVID year, that even with all the development and all the increase in all these clean energies out there, that we're still using more oil. Matter of fact, we're producing more oil per month now under the Biden administration than we were under the Trump administration. Per month. We've talked about that shows ago. We're breaking records every day for the amount of oil that we consume. So that means what's going to meet that? Are we just going to burn more oil, or what is the answer? It's probably 4 or 5 years ago. I could say that I had a conversation with somebody at Brookfield Energy, not naming names, but they were just saying, in the future, the only answer is clean nuclear. And so, wow, nuclear, like, how is that going to get through? We got rid of, remember Sunuk Nu, our governor here in New Hampshire, and all the jokes around that, and closing down all these nuclear power plants. And the concept of nuclear energy has been balked at across the board, but the demand for energy is so massive that they don't know what else to do, and they find that potentially has a smaller carbon footprint than using and burning oil. So maybe clean nuclear is the direction, and that's popping up all over Europe. All these mini plants with smaller bars and all this, however they do it, it's cleaner than traditional nuclear. The waste is a lot less, and the development of the technology, I guess, is significantly better. And we have found that one of the subsets in the utility sector, but it crisscrosses with energy, is nuclear. So you're kind of getting into this kind of hybrid space. But we talked about this with technology last week. It's like, what is technology? Well, what is utilities these days? Or is it an energy play? And that's what you have to ask yourself, which one you're making. But there's like 6 ETFs straight out of the bag that are straight up nuclear. There's URA, which is Global X Uranium ETF. It's a $3 billion ETF. It's not small. There's Van Eck, a very well-known company. NLR, they have 207 million assets under management. There's URNM, Sprott Uranium Miners ETF. That's 1.73 billion. These are just straight up nuclear plays. And I've talked to people and had conversations. If you want to invest in nuclear, it's at a high right now. It's like within 10% of its high on most of these things, all-time highs. And so you have to really be careful about this. But if you're out there for 20 years, there could be some real play here. But you have to have the time horizon to figure that out, because building these things takes time. Our political environment, our social environment has to accept the idea of these mini plants all over the place producing energy. There's a lot of question marks around this stuff. Utilities were the defensive play that people have long lived with. But in this tech AI world, this EV demand, it could be the growth play that, a lot of people need in their portfolio. And honestly, we have to feed that beast. Everybody needs energy.
You got it here first. You've been listening to Money on Tap. Yeah, feed the beast. I like that. Everybody needs energy. It's a very strong case for you to consider. All right, that, for one, not all utilities are going to benefit equally from the trends that we're seeing. Research the companies if you're really active in this space. Look at the companies before you invest. Look for strong track records and innovation and adaptation, which are likely to be better positioned for this future growth. You've been listening to Money on Tap. We've been talking about power up your portfolio, the new growth potential of the utilities sector. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Be successful in your investing. We cannot wait to meet you here next week. Same time, same place, people. We'll see you.
All season long, it's Money on Tap's Summer Sector Series. Each week exploring a different high-growth industry, analyzing major players, market trends, and emerging opportunities. Join us again next week for more smart, sizzling investment opportunities here at Money on Tap. The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through Osaic Wealth Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of Osaic Wealth Incorporated. Osaic Wealth Incorporated and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.
Well, bye.